That's been a big challenge. You know, have products that you think are pretty good, but take-up rates might be 10%, 20%. People just aren't buying this. Maybe the marketing isn't great. Maybe the products aren't great. Well, there's another issue that we see from an example from Stuart Rutherford's book, The Poor and Their Money. This is drawing from work in the fishing communities of Cochin in India. And one of the things we can learn from what they do when they create funeral societies, which are usually around their temple, mosque, or social club involving 300 or so people, is that these societies take money every week, bit by bit by bit, and they pay out when there's a problem. If there's no funeral in your family and there's some surplus in the fund, then everyone gets a dividend back. This is about 4 cents a week. So that can work, because after you go to the temple or church, get together, make your contribution. But if you have no mechanism like that, it can be very difficult for the providers, for an insurance provider, to actually collect premium and collect the installments. And so that's a big issue, because often people can afford to pay, but they can't afford to pay in one big lump. They can't afford to pay if it's broken down into little bits. That problem, small change, is something we see again and again. So I'm going to skip over that, but that's the big issue for the private sector, a big issue that shows that details really can matter. You may have a great idea, but implementing it can be hard because those details matter. Pricing and how prices are charged. So let me skip over this part and move to some of the innovations. We don't have a breakthrough innovation. So I want to give you a sense of what some of the pieces may look like. Maybe one day you'll come up with a breakthrough innovation, and maybe there's something here. This is a picture of a hospital where a child is being operated on. We can think about Faisal that we started this discussion with. Faisal needed $250 to pay for his leg operation when he fractured his thigh. How do you put together money to help people who suffer a big enough problem that they end up in the hospital? Well, health insurance is hard. Moral hazard and adverse selection. That's the big problem in the Obama health plan, trying to address it. It's a big problem in health insurance in general. Moral hazard. Once you insure people, maybe they'll take less care. It increases the probability of their needing medical help. Adverse selection. You sell insurance, you make it voluntary, only the sickest people, or more likely the sickest people, are going to sign up for it. It's very costly for insurance companies. So that's a big issue. Another issue is reinsurance. If you're selling insurance in a community, everyone gets sick at the same time, or it's rainfall insurance and everyone suffers low rainfall at the same time, that's very hard for an insurance company. So what they do is they reinsure, they sell part of that, and in effect the insurance company gets insurance for itself. They sell part of that portfolio to someone else to help out, sort of spread the risk. So here's one idea, a really simple idea called hospital cash. And the idea is, if someone is admitted to a hospital for any reason, and this is an example from South India, admitted to a hospital for any reason for a given period, in this case 3 days, they get a lump sum. It doesn't matter whether they're in for a heart problem or an eye problem or a arm problem. Any reason, they get this lump sum. It's not perfect. It's very simple though, and it's a start. And this has turned out to be implementable. Seems like an improvement over the status quo, but it's far from perfect. So that's a beginning, hospital cash. And you'll notice the element of it is it's not very customized. It's going to cut down then on some of the moral hazard issues because it's coarser. You can't see this very well. This is a picture of Bangalore in India. And this is the monsoon coming in. A beautiful picture of the rains coming down on the plain. The monsoon sweeps across India. This is a picture of the monsoon onset map. Monsoons come and bring rain throughout India. And the timing of the monsoon, as we were just discussing is very, very critical. So we know rainfall is a primary cause of income variability in India. You ask households, South India, what's the most important risk you face? Drought comes up 89% of the time. So it seems like a really perfect insurance market, a great thing to address drought insurance or rainfall insurance. And we know that crop insurance, ensuring crop loss is difficult. Moral hazard again, adverse selection again, high transaction costs, slow, complicated delivery mechanisms. All of that's tricky. And the idea is cut through all of that stuff with crop insurance, which when they sell it in richer countries is usually heavily subsidized. Cut through all that and instead sell insurance against rainfall. Here's the idea. Break the season into 3 different sections: sowing, potting, flowering, harvest season. That's 1, 2, 3. And since rainfall has different effects in different seasons or different parts of the season, have different coverage at different parts of the season. This is a picture of a contract. There are different triggers. If you get too much or too little insurance, you get some payout. And it's all clear from the beginning. It's all dependent on how much rain there is. It has nothing to do with how your own crops are doing. In principle, you don't even need to have crops to buy this insurance. It's sort of an interesting thing. So if you're a shopkeeper and your livelihood depends on the demand in the community, and the demand is from farmers whose livelihoods depend on rainfall, then you as a shopkeeper also dependent on rainfall because your customers are. You also might benefit from some insurance. So anyone can buy this because it doesn't require that you're a farmer. It just requires that your life is somehow affected by the rains. And that's the idea of the insurance contract. It makes sense. Big insurers were involved, ICICI Lombard. I'm going to move over this and tell you the challenge. The big challenge here was that demand has been low. A great idea, people really excited, they roll it out, but demand is low. What's going on? Number one, it could be basis risk. A basis risk is a risk that happens because your farm is over here, but the rainfall station is way over here. And there may not be enough correlation between what's going on in your plot, your farm, and the rainfall station, the weather station. So the solution there has to be, well, create more weather stations, something closer by. It's expensive, you need more information, maybe hard to price, but that's basis risk, that could be part of it. Another part could be safety nets. Maybe you figure, hey, if there's really a drought, if I'm really in trouble, the state's going to come and help me. So why do I need this insurance? So that's part of it. But another part of it is, maybe just prices are too high. Turns out it's not enough to explain it all. People are very price responsive, but even if the prices were totally fair in an actuarial sense, right? You get exactly what you pay for, you'd still only see adoption of this product by 25 to 50% of households. It's not all about price. So another part is liquidity. So it's not about price, it's about having the right money at the right time. So the researchers randomly assigned some households got some cash, some didn't. That made a big difference, liquidity. Increased take-up by 150% of the baseline. So it's having the cash at the right time. Which suggests, if you sell this insurance at the harvest, right, when people are flush with cash, you could do better than trying to sell it right before the season when people are having a harder time in terms of cash flows. So that's one part of the story, liquidity. Another is trust. So who are these insurance agents who come and try to sell this? Well, villagers say, we don't know you. You're asking us to believe that you'll be there when we need you. I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm not going to buy it. So if a local agent, a village head or somebody like that, vouches for this insurance company, that raises demand by 36%. Doing something simple like adding a religious symbol to an insurance flyer also notably increases demand, creating kind of associations of trust. Another thing about insurance is that it's somewhat tricky to get your mind around it. So we are in a situation where households in this area can correctly answer a simple numeracy or literacy question only 60% of the time. So not all the time. That may be part of it. But what's striking, if you add an education module, does it help take up? No, really no effect, which is humbling. Maybe the education module is not very good, or maybe it's not really a factor. Another issue, marketing, salience, just being out there. Well, it does turn out that people who are involved in these interventions, who have some exposure to people coming around and talking to them about insurance, does make a difference. It does increase take-up by a quarter or more. People who just get a flyer, unlikely to act on it, or much less likely to act on it. But having some kind of physical contact with salespeople, actually meeting face-to-face and talking, makes a difference. So that's the big picture. There's really no breakthrough model yet. We know there's some pieces that have to come together to make this work. The pieces are there, more or less, but they haven't really come together in the right way yet. Lots of interest, lots of need. Big insurance companies are interested, government agencies are interested, a lot of public interest in safety nets, but we need to figure out pricing and marketing and information and integrating with safety nets. All of that has to happen. We need to think about health problems and financial problems together, and that's going to take us on the path to sorting this out. We've got two particular questions about public sector safety nets and private sector insurance. Is the private insurance going to squeeze out informal measures? That's one question. If you provide private, is it just going to substitute for what people are doing on their own anyhow? I doubt it. The evidence I showed you before suggests it's not going to be a big issue. But there's some evidence from some places that that could be an issue, and then the net impact is going to be much smaller. Secondly, will public assistance squeeze out private insurance? We were talking about that in the India case just now. It's a real concern. We don't have all the evidence, but it's a big issue moving forward. So that's it. That's some thoughts on risk and insurance. We covered a lot of ground. We talked about ups and downs, where variability comes from, the importance of risk, and we started to point to some solutions that are partial, that help portfolios, that could combine with other measures and just give households better tools to deal with some of the biggest problems that they face, and that can help them avoid having to sell their assets, deplete their savings, take high interest loans, and in that way create a better, more predictable, less stressful life. And that may not be revolutionary, but it's an important platform for moving forward.